Hola, hola. I'm here. My name is Nahir Robles, and I'm very excited to be here with all of you today.
Do you wanna get live with me? Do you really wanna ride with me? I'm in the club.
Welcome everybody to another great edition of the Three Count Podcast presents Now Entering, and now I'm your host Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And by now, after season 5 and our I don't know 360 something episode, I would just hope you say with me, I am your Sherpa, because like your tribal chief, acknowledge me.
Jesus.
But like every good Sherpa, you gotta have someone who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficiently than you can. That's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering. So who's entering the ring today? Well, you can find her at ACW, Wrestling Open, Kaiju Pro, IWA, EPW, WOW, VPW, and Liberty Pro. She is feisty. She is fiery. She is la chica de hola hola. She is Nahir Robles.
The fact that you just went and name dropped some of the promotions, I'm like shooketh right now.
Well,
You
listen,
did your research. You know
yeah, you
what?
gotta,
Not you doing research. Awesome.
yeah, you gotta do your research, right? Like it was something I learned. I've told this story like one other time, right? So I invited somebody on the show. Won't mention her name, right?
Mhm.
But I had them on the show, and we were talking. And right before I had asked them to come on the show, I try to schedule a date with them, and then they were like, "Yo, so how you gonna ask me to be on your show and you don't know anything about me?" And I was like, yeah, but it's not really that kind of show, and we've only been around for about a year. But a full year later, she came on the show, and we had a full conversation, and we had a blast, and and she was like, "Yo, I want to come back and do another episode." I was like, "Of course."
That's
So
a redemption story right there.
so yeah, ever since then, I was like, "Yeah, we're gonna go through. We're gonna look up." I pretty much become like a full journalist, and as in like I have to go utilize all the sources that I can to pull as much information as I can, because I don't want to come up here and be like, and I know nothing about this person.
Scary. I've had my fair share of. Now that you mentioned that, before I was a wrestler, I was an interviewer.
Yeah.
And I remember first person I ever had an interview, and this just tells you how little I knew about Puerto Rican history. Like, I'll always tell this story. First person I ever had an interview was Cuervo. Cuervo in Puerto Rico, he's a really huge deal. He became IWA's new world heavyweight champion this Saturday. Just to
Right.
like give an example, he's really young as well. He's been a lot around in Mexico. And so they just bring me in. I'm still training at this point, and they're just giving me the questions that I have to ask him. But I'm so scared, and I'm so nervous about the whole shtick. And I'll always talk about this. He's El Cuervo de Puerto Rico, right? That's his gimmick. That's his name. I was so nervous, and he was gonna talk about an incident that happened in Mexico. I ended up calling him El Cuervo de Mexico, and the way he looked at me,
Yep, I'm in trouble.
like I just wanted like to like just bury me in sand, please.
Yo, can we stop that? Can we just like rewind that back and just like run it all over again? Like just necessary.
Oh yeah, no, because it was so funny because it was a pre-recording, thank God. But he was like, I was just like, yeah, but Cuervo de Mexico, and he looked at me. What did you just call me?
I'll be like,
And then I realized, and I'm like, and I really said, "Fuck!" It was so.
all right, and here's not here, and we are signing off. No, well, it's funny because like even like going through and doing my research and doing my due diligence as much as possible, sometimes you just run into shit where it doesn't work out. Like your research is off, and I've
How
had a couple
off
of
can
those.
you be? I'm being ironic.
Yeah, I mean, like sometimes, like you'll pull up somebody's information and like you'll go through and you like double check it to make sure that it was right, And then you talk about it, and then they're like, "Yeah, that never happened." And they're like, "Whoa, yeah, that was way off." Like, because I've done it where I have talked about, a person trained at a certain wrestling school, and I had brought it up, and they're like, "No, I didn't train there." I was like, "Well, then we're gonna put this one on the research because I've definitely like gone through and done it." So, yeah, it was crazy, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Like, so you have to kind of take those lickings and just like keep it moving.
I feel like our research is a double-ended sword at this point.
No, so all right, so we met at a couple different places. So we met at Wrestling Independent in Philly, and then we just so happened to be at Kaiju. And then I had seen that you were at the Wrestling Open the following week. Um, and it's been wild to watch you work because you and mind you, some of the circles that you are like kind of running in right now, like are the same circles that I know. But you're in Puerto Rico. You're not
I'm
around
not
the
even
way.
supposed to be running your same circles. It's
Yeah.
everyone's like, how is this happening?
It's funny though because like I had mentioned with Sicken, I had talked to him about how you and I had conversations. I just so happened to see that you were at ACW, and he was like, "Oh yeah, totally love her. She's a total sweetheart." And then like and then the next day there you are with Travis going to WrestleCon, and I'm like, "Hey yo, there's another person that I know." Then the with PJ and like I
Travis,
was
he has a special place in my heart. Commissioner, like I need him to make a shirt that says "I heart the Commissioner," and I'm going to buy it.
there. You know what? I'm sure Travis, because he watches a lot of these episodes. I'm sure he's gonna see this one. He's gonna
He
do that.
really needs to make a shirt like "I heart the Commissioner." Like that would be such a vibe.
Like I was there watching him make that character come to
I
life.
love the Commissioner. I think it's kind of like it's not something you see these days. Like it isn't. And I feel like it's much needed. You kind of need like a character you love to hate.
Yeah.
And it's the whole like authority fight with comedy, but also the bluntness that we love. I love this character
Yeah.
so much. I love Travis.
And then his voice is just hilarious when he
Yes,
drops into it. That's right.
yes.
So him and I like did right before I left Maryland and moved to the north to New England, right? Uh I did a promo video with him, and it was to kind of like tie up some loose ends that I had done
Mhm.
in other videos, so that way it all made kind of sense. And he popped into the video, and he was like, "I'm an athletic," or he's like, "I'm the state commission." And I was like, "Your voice sounds kind of weird, kind of like you're like have a little frog in it." And then like I was like, "I gotta go, toodles," and just like bounced off. And he was like, "I don't get any respect around here," and it was just so funny to listen to him do that voice. And then we joke about it all the time. But yeah, I probably talk to him probably once or twice a week and just BS with him.
When I saw him, I saw him the first time. I was literally like, I automatically thought of VPW. You know, VPW has Kane Industries, Silky Smooth,
Yeah.
and I was just like, Silky's kind of like a manager, and I feel like it'd be so funny just to pit them against each other. That's just where my head went at the moment. Like Silk bringing new like people for him to manage, and just the commissioner like, no, they have not passed these tests. They can't wrestle. It was just in my head right there.
And for the right amount of cash, I might be able to let it
I, I
go.
might let it. I might let it slip.
I
Just
might
a
let it
thousand
slide.
dollars, and then just Silk comes out with his packet of money. Take it.
Did you ever see the one that he did with Mark Briscoe?
What?
Did you ever see the one he did with Mark Briscoe?
No, I have not.
Yeah. I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you after this interview, so that way you can check.
Awesome.
It's
Yes, it'd be
hilarious.
funny just you putting here and just having my reaction. I'd be like,
um. No. So anyway, we could chat about our circles and like how
yes.
crazy our network is. But I want to know about you. So who is Nahir Robles?
That's such a complicated question at this point in my life. I feel like the best way to answer is she's a model, she's a wrestler, she's a scientist, she's all of that.
I like that. I like that. Just like this is kind of like a model, a wrestler, and a scientist. Like that's not a combination you find a lot, but I like it a lot.
I feel like it's weird because you can get the model and the wrestler in the 2000s,
Yeah.
but the scientist equation of it you get it in like in present day era, like not exactly a scientist, but for example the character of Britt Baker, she's a dentist.
Yeah.
And like I feel like it's a refreshing take on like being able to not stick to one status quo. So it's kind of fun and interesting, like to have that. I'll always say I'm like a cliche of like what the 2000s wanted of the women, but like I have a special twist to it.
I like that. I like that. That's like when PJ and I had our match against Social Influence. It was funny because like my character is a comedic mercenary, while he's like very much like the serious kind of mercenary type. And so like our styles like obviously weirdly clash but work together at the same token, which is exactly
Mhm.
like how it played out in our story with Social Influence. But even the behind the scenes, we had cut a promo with those guys, and it was just funny because I was like, "Oh, we're like I'm hilarious." Well, I think you don't know about mercenaries, but we kind of like run together like a little pack, and my person is right behind you guys. And then Savage is like, "Savage," you know how he does this thing, and then it was just funny to be like involved with that whole scenario. But like you said, right? Like the point of like my character is like he's not take he takes things seriously, but he does it more kind of like in a dark humor way because he doesn't. It's not necessarily you don't always have to be the I'm the serious type. Not everybody is Batman from fucking the Dark Knight series. You know what I mean?
I mean, in the US they use the darker tones. In Puerto Rico they just scream. Like you can go to like I'm not even trying to be shameful. It's just like just the way things run here. The way you like people say it's a good promo or it's not. It's basically based on screaming. And then I feel like and I'm like I've never wrestled her. I'm just gonna like just name drop her right now. I think she's doing an amazing job of what she's doing in Puerto Rico as the IWA Women's Champion, Evie de la Rosa.
Yep.
I think Evie does great as like just getting her point across without the screaming. She's like a modern day like of what I feel like we all should aspire like in promos, at least Puerto Rico, and like transcending to the States. I think she does really well. Like, oh, but man, I would not love to be at the end of those comments because like she's mean. I mean, Evie, that she's mean, but she's great.
Well, I think that's what makes wrestling like so much fun, especially like in the United States. How you just brought that up. It's just that there's so many different types and flavors of like promos that get done, but then like you kind of see like the same repetition. And so when you get to see a person who like portrays a character, really puts it out there that they're just kind of like it's just a whole different spin on it. It breathes new life into wrestling, and it's fun to watch. Like I know, like Travis's promos are hilarious because like
Oh yeah, I just
he's
want a YouTube channel. I want a whole vignette out of them. I
right.
want an entire live show of it.
I could definitely do a whole show of just Travis Norbert, and you could call it the commish on the road or something like I don't know, but
Yes.
like yeah, Travis's promos are hilarious, right? I like to do more comedy style where like I'm mixing things up and maybe every once in a while we'll switch it up and do some serious promos where it's like I'm also going to be a dark mercenary, but for the most part like I did a whole promo where it was like Blues Clues and it was fucking hilarious.
No.
Yeah. I loved it and I love that one and I did a whole Disney promo with like a laugh track in the background. Those were like my two favorites that I have done. And it's like I would go back
That's
to
so
doing those
cool.
in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat, I would go back to doing those. Um, just because it was just fun, it's creative, and it was just something different that like no one else had like done. But I kind of want to talk to you because we have a thing in common that a lot of other people don't have in common, right? And it is that we represent a community that is like growing to be like the elite of what it is in pro wrestling, right? And I don't mean to like piss on anybody else's parades, right? But Latino wrestlers and Latina wrestlers like hold it down. And if you don't believe me, right now, Cody Rhodes, Bailey, and Damian Priest are your world champions. So if you want to like timestamp what we're talking when we're talking right now, and I didn't even mention that Rey Mysterio and Dominic like slayed it at WrestleMania with their tag matches with Andrade and Santos Escobar. So for me, my question to you, right, is how is it feeling putting your stamp on the Latinos culture
But,
and like elevating that bar?
oof. So I have like I'll always like everywhere I go, I'll always like mention Puerto Rico because it's part of who I am. I have a complicated relationship with the island though. Like I am very proud of where I come from, but I say I have a very weird relationship with the island because it they can be ruthless sometimes. I love Puerto Rican crowds, but they're ruthless. They're ruthless, and I felt like the right way for me to get through them has been going the extra mile. Like instead of like, just standing back when, they were like, because people like, I feel like the phrase that you're not a prophet on your own land. I feel that applies to me very much. And being able to just do it, not to like shut them up, but to prove to them that I belong. And while making that statement, I'm also able to bring my flag, and then I have this totally different reception from people in the United States because I will never like not like I'll never be embarrassed from where I came from. Like that's just who I am. That's my character. That's just there. But it tends to be like a hard like baggage in the sense that like I'm the first impression most of the times. Like when I hit the state of New Hampshire, to me it was scary. Like I didn't know like what people would expect from me, and like I'm this Latina who kind of looks kind of white sometimes, but the braids kind of help. So I'm not really helping myself in that case. So it's a lot, but I'm proud of like everywhere I go, regardless of like what I have my personal thoughts on. I'll always be proud of where I came from, and I'll always try my best to be part of that history because at the end of the day, that's what I'm aiming for.
I totally understand where you're coming from because like for me, like people see like I'm gonna front like y'all like this light right here is just showing me with like a nice. It looks like I have a nice little tan. I'm not like I make paper look like it's got a tan. Like that's how bright white I am. But like I have to constantly remember like remind people like hey no like even though I'm fair skinned yo estoy Latino también and I have like I represent Panama, like, and there's really like little representation. Like, so for us, like, there's just like two people that I remember. I went to Wikipedia and was like looking up like famous wrestlers from Panama, and there was like two that popped up. And I know, like, obviously, and I don't remember those two. I'm gonna be honest, sorry, but like Bobby Lashley is Panameño también, right? So it's cool to see him be representing. And then like after that, everybody else is just kind of like you're either from Puerto Rico, you're from Mexico, right? Axiom right now, he's from Spain, right? Like and there's like very little from like where I'm from. And so like for me it's like of course I can't quit. of course they can't back down. Like I have to keep pushing because like while myself, Nikolai White, and Mantis, right, in the New England area, like those are the three Panameños that I know for sure, right? And I know there's more, but for right now in the area that I'm in, and even in the DMV, right, it's just me at the DMV, and then in the New England area, it's us three, and it's like that's so little representation. And when you look around and you see people who are proud to be Latino or proud to be Latina, right? Boricuas, Mexicanos.
But they're like in DMV area, they're so hard to find. Like, fine, you get them in most of them, you get them in New York.
Right.
But like Northeast, particularly, they're so hard to find. So every time I hear like somebody talking to me in Spanish, I just go like, "Hey, wepa."
That's like, and that's the funniest part because like I know, like I was just talking about this with my mom a couple days ago actually, um, but because she's that's how I'm Panamanian, right? It's my mom. Uh, but my mom and I were talking about the different words and dialects that people use, and so she's in the process of learning Spanish from Mexico because there's a bunch of words that they use that we don't use, right? And so her husband, my stepfather, is trying to learn like Spanish from Panama because like obviously the dialect is different and there's different words that
Yeah,
you use in
I feel
different
like
things.
that's the problem a lot with Spanish. Like, you can learn Spanish, but like it has to be like targeted to a certain
Yep.
audience because Puerto Rican Spanish is not the same as Mexican Spanish
Oh,
or Chilean Spanish or Colombian Spanish.
facts.
Spanish, like it might be one language, but there's a lot of subdivisions to it.
Well, and that's what it's just like it's like speaking English, right? Like if you go to England and
Oh,
there's a
no way.
bunch of words that you're not using that they use, right? You go to Australia, it's the same way, right? They use different words that to describe different things. It's so interesting to me, but what I love about our culture, right, is that we we represent we always want to lift up our culture because at the end of the day we realize like we know that we're the minority, but we're also like the majority of the people because whenever you talk about people that you love, right, you're always going to bring up somebody from the Latino community. Like you're always and always no one, and especially right now, no one's going to tell me, and I ask people all the time like, well, who's some of your favorite wrestlers? Like Eddie Guerrero, like bet. Like, there's like the number one I usually hear, or Ray. Ray is another, Santana and Ortiz, right? And sometimes people don't realize that, like, hey, right now the WWE champion is Cubano, and previous to that, Bobby Lashley is Panamanian, and it's something to be proud of. The Latino community, it just stands out. And WrestleMania, bruh, we was half the car.
Oh, that show was like I was suffering. I'm gonna be honest with you because like while WrestleMania was happening, I was on the plane back home, and I
Mm.
was just looking through the updates like crazy. But I was so upset. Like I
Yeah,
was like, why isn't it happening? Why is this happening? Why do I have to go back?
no, it's too funny. But I think it's important that we all get to put our stamp on this thing called wrestling and then elevate it, showing off our culture and our community and how proud we are of that community. Because like for me, like it's written, like I have
Oh
it.
my god!
Yeah, very proud and very open about it. And I know a lot of people when they saw me and I was in the military. Um, I had always planned on getting one that said like American on this side. I just never got around to it. Sorry.
You're
But
like, whoops, it didn't happen.
when I
I
got back
mean,
from
I know what you're explaining. I have this match next week. It's kind of funny, the whole context of it, but like it's just about like how proud are we from I have this match. It's four versus four tag team match. Um Team Pegao, which is what Puerto Ricans call the sticky rice at the end of the olla. And then Dominican Republic calls it Team Con Con.
oh nice.
The Con were pegados. So it's literally like the battle of the like Latino wars. Like, what's the right word to call it? It's gonna be such a fun match because it's gonna bring a lot of elements of like Puerto Rican culture. Like I remember when I recorded the promo with Matt and Eden wasn't there, but Jay was there, Lion.
Mm. Yeah.
When we were recording the promo, I was telling them, "Well, guys, who's bringing the flags?" And they were like, "Oh, you're bringing them," and I'm like, "You guys really think I'm gonna bring the because we have this whole argument about the color of the Puerto Rican flag. Because I'm sorry, you mentioned Panameña, and I automatically thought about the flag conversation. We were talking about like, because they were like, "So you guys really think I'm gonna get the light blue one?" And they're like, "Amazon doesn't have them." And I'm like, "I found them on Amazon, by the way. Like, whatever." But like, I have them. So it was the whole thing. Like, two like Puerto Ricans who were very proud of our culture. The royal blue is kind of like a slap in the face in Puerto Rican history. Like, yeah, people that want to be like statehood in Puerto Rico, they pretty much embrace the royal blue because it's closer to the navy blue of the United States flag.
Right.
But light blue represented a whole chapter in Puerto Rican history that's called El Grito de Lares. So, like, when you tell Boricua, you got the light blue or the royal blue, and you say the royal blue, that's disrespect, man.
Dang. See, that's why I love this show because like you learn something new every
Like,
time you
I'm
check
gonna
this
look for
out.
it. I'm gonna show you a preview because I literally I did kind of like a belt with the flag just to get
Mm,
it. Like, I'm in no way a seamstress or anything. I just wanted to get this done by myself.
okay.
Like, try and succeed. I'm gonna bring it right now. It's literally next to me.
Okay.
Okay. I have it right here.
Hey, that's lit though.
So it's literally the like a belt with the Puerto Rican flag
Yo, I
with
like
the
that.
light blue.
See, and it's a thing that's like in other cultures, like you can do things like that, right? In the United States, like we have a law that legitimately says that you can't wear the flag as clothing, but you can wear clothing that is designed with the flag, if that makes sense. Like you can wear a flag T-shirt, but you can't wear the American flag as a T-shirt. If you kind of see what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
but Puerto Ricans have like literally like even at the Puerto Rican airport, I should have taken a picture of it. There's literally like a whole like section of just Puerto Rican artifacts, T-shirts. That's literally the Puerto Rican flag. Um, the tiny little flags. They got Puerto Rican foods. Like it's such a wild thing just to have at the airport. And this also the second thing that I like the most about the Puerto Rican airport, the SJU airport. I've never gone to the other two, so I'm just gonna speak for the SJU one at least. They have a whole section of medalla. So medalla is a beer like made in Puerto Rico. It's situated in Mayagüez.
Mm,
So they literally have this whole area at the airport just to buy like medalla merch.
nice.
So to me, that's the ultimate like show out to like everybody. Like Puerto Ricans are made of really cool candy and really good beer.
Yeah, I like that though. I like that. See, and that's where like I think that's like something like I'm trying to implicate or put into my character too is that like, hey, like here are the things that Red Dog is proud of, outside of just being a former military, right? Like, because he says it in his promos every time. But to also like to show off, like, hey man, look, he has the Panama flag around him all the time. And the thing is, I have to go buy one. Like, because I know a lot of people gonna be like, "What? How do you not have a?" And I'm like, first of all, like, I don't even have a. I have an American flag. It actually is
You
over
should
there.
put it like literally next to you for the show. It'd be
Yeah, like right
so
here.
yes.
Yeah,
It
let people
has
know.
to be there, like for sure.
See, I want to always get like American, like a like the United States flag and then like the Panama flag, like half and half. And I know a lot of people gonna be like, "No, you can't do that." I'm like, first of all, I live in America. I can do whatever the fuck I want.
Free
But
speech. And
secondly,
they're like free speech.
free speech. Get to do what I want. You can be mad. You can shut this interview off anytime you want because now all of a sudden it's changed to like this weird part. But anyway, we get yeah. No, I want people to know like, hey, yo, like you can be proud of like the culture that you come from, and like you should always look to elevate that culture no matter what. But yo, we gonna jump into this other part. So you've been in now for a couple years, right? You were an interviewer, now you're a wrestler. I know that you have one of these so far because I have seen some of them. But what's the worst bump you've taken?
It wasn't even a bump. It was when my arm still kind of like, and it got like injured in the dumbest way you could think of. Um, I was getting a DDT done. Like they
Mhm.
were giving me a DDT, and they still held my arm. They didn't let it go.
Mm,
So when I took the bump, it did a. It's not
mm,
like out of it. It's kind of like muscular, so it's kind of worse because I can't treat it right.
right.
So from time to time, my arm can just stay like this, like for like a few seconds, and then it goes down.
Mm.
And it was like the dumbest like bump ever, like a DDT bump.
Well, I mean, if you look at CM Punk, like that's how he tore his tricep was from that
So
future shock.
stupid. I was so upset, and like the worst part, like that was on my graduation match,
Mm,
and like I didn't even know that like the school I was trained, they do these shows until like when you graduate. You don't know when you're getting graduated, of course. And that I had the opportunity of being the first female main event, uh, and that match, like almost literally, it was just less than 30 seconds from the finish.
oh man.
The arm, and I did this horrible scream, and like people just knew, and I kept on, and I finished the match, and I'm just busted. Like I can't even like you could see me like when the match ends. I'm like when they hold my arm to like, oh, you're graduated. I'm literally holding myself like this, and like I just kept it together. Like it was such a conflicting moment for me because I like I feel like if I wouldn't have kept it together, they wouldn't have graduated me.
Right.
But at the same time, it was like I just proved to everybody how tough I can be with the funkiest injuries I've taken.
I understand. I was in the middle of a match with a good friend of mine, and I did a back body drop on a low boy, and I didn't get my arm out quick enough. So when he landed, my elbow it didn't hyperextend, but it definitely got pinched, and so like I ended up like almost like dislocating my elbow, and like I laid on the ground, and I was like, "Yo, am I okay?" Right, and I'm trying to. I had a feeling in my finger, so I'm like, "Okay, well, we're not destroyed. We're good." So then I remember my buddy asked me, he's like, "Yo, are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I think it's all right. It's just little." And I told him like it just kind of feels like it's just tingling, so we're good. I wrestled the rest of the match, and mind you, this was 4 minutes into the match, and so I wrestled the next 10 minutes with like pretty much like one arm, and you can see in the video like I'm still like every once in a while like
Despite
I'll
your
do a
hand
move.
is still
Yeah,
working.
yeah, so, like,
Oh
I
my
hit him with a
god!
spine buster, and I did it one-handed, like, hitting a spine buster, and, like, everything went off, like, just normal. Everybody was like, "Oh, yeah, no, it looked incredible," and we're like, "Yeah," so I'm in the back afterwards, and I have, like, an ice pack on my elbow and stuff like that. Everybody's like, "Yo, what's good?" And I was like, "Yo, man, I don't know, I did on this back body drop, and, like, I felt it instantly and thought I broke it," and so, Andino and I had to kinda, like, play it safe. But, it was totally my fault, but I was like, we kept it together and we still like people were talking about that match. They're like, "Yeah, this was a great match. Like, this is one of the
You're
best
just
matches we've seen."
suffering, but you're like, this was such a good match, though.
I was like, I know everything hit like it was supposed to, so I was like super excited. But yeah,
Just seeing you wrestle, that was the moment that you would have been. Where am I getting my flowers? I wrestle with a one arm.
yo, all right. So let me ask you this, right? As long as you've been in, right? What's one of the hardest lessons that you've had to learn?
Damn, that's a tough one.
So what we do here, we ask the tough questions.
That's okay. No. I don't mind. It's just you make me think, and I'm like, holy. Um,
These are great.
it's a difficult one. I'm thinking like
It's either between. It's hard, but I've come to accept the wrestling politics. And I love this phrase that I learned a couple of it was literally like almost a year ago. I learned this phrase that goes along the lines of hustle beats talent when talent don't hustle.
Mm. Yep.
And I come to like really embrace that phrase because I was the girl that never got the opportunities back home. And I created those opportunities for me. Nobody handed me anything. And when I learned that phrase for the first time, I was like, that's my that's my motto. That's how I aspire to be. And that's how I plan to prove everybody wrong.
I like it. I like it a lot because it does matter. Like, you got to hustle for, like, especially like in this business, like you got to hustle. Like it is about the hustle, like the grind. Like you got to go to places, you got to meet people, you got to network, you got to do all these things to help to get other opportunities or, and I know like even for me, like when I was working in Maryland, like it was, I don't want to say it was easier, right? But I kind of had a leg in because I knew people. I started networking really well. My trainer knew a lot of people, so that's how I was like getting a lot of bookings. And then I moved to New England, and I was like, I gotta start all over again.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like in a sense it's kind of harder for me because I have to do all this shenanigans to get where you guys are at, just to manage. But it does give me a good payoff because I'm working harder, like because I want this just as much.
Yep. Oh yeah, and a lot of people can tell. Like they see it in your work. So trust me, I'm well aware. So I was like, bruh, like she's one of the people like between you, Brittany Brooks and Zeta Steele are like in Academia, like you four are like my favorites to watch work because you guys are
I
everywhere.
love Brittany, and fun fact, she was actually next to me, like on the table on WrestleCon, and it was such a throwback because we did this triple threat match back in November for BPW, and she was on one side of the on one of the tables. I was at the other for big event, and then, since we were like on a match, we were just like, "Get away! I can't see you." But it was so funny. But she's such a sweet girl, and she's such a hard worker, and at such a young age. Like, to me, that's crazy. I have not had the opportunity to meet like Zeta yet. Hopefully, I'll meet her one of these days. I also see that she's a very hard worker. I love her aura, like her presence in like any camera that goes to see her. It's just wow.
Yep.
And Academia, I think she wrestled recently. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I saw her like in a promotion in Georgia. I love her as well.
Yeah.
Again,
No,
three young girls just doing it like and they're getting the recognition they deserve. So to me, I'm like, touche.
Yep. No, it is fun watching it's fun watching you four, like I said, watch you guys work because you guys are everywhere. You guys are working your asses off and then it's paying off and you can see it. So I'm like, yo, yeah. Big bless ups to y'all for that. So listen, I'm gonna switch gears. We're gonna go into my favorite part of the 3 Count podcast, which is the 3 Count podcast 10 count questions. And Ms. Robles, this is how it works. I'm gonna fire off 10 questions at you rapid fast, and whatever your answer is, that's your answer.
Okay. Jesus. Okay, shoot.
All right. So we're gonna put on an imaginary timer for added pressure. Bing. And in the words of my favorite commentator, Mike Goldberg, here we go. SmackDown or Raw?
SmackDown.
Favorite cartoon?
Kolyoko.
Marvel or DC?
DC. Peacemaker was the.
Let's go. I like it. Favorite actor or actress?
When I was a kid, he passed away, but it was Robin Williams when I was a kid.
So great pick. I love that one. Chocolate or vanilla?
chocolate.
Favorite movie?
Oh, that's a hard one. That's such a hard one. But 13 going on 30.
Yeah, that's a great one. uh, Apple or Android?
I'm gonna get hate, but I have Android. I can't say iPhone. That'd be hypocritical.
Favorite podcast?
Oh my god. That's such a hard one. I barely listen to any podcast these days. This is so bad. Oh my god. I feel like it doesn't have a definite answer, but any podcast that my friends have so I can support it. That's a good answer.
That is a great answer. Nominate one person that you want to see on this podcast.
I have to see the list of the people you have had here so I could be like, so hard, so hard.
Yeah, it's tough. Trust me, because we've done. I think we're at like 300. I think this. It might be
That's
like,
one. I'm like,
we're at like
I want to see somebody
370,
you
I think.
haven't had here, and I'm stuck.
Yeah, I'm not gonna front. Like we haven't had like anybody who's been in our circles. I've had on the podcast. I'm just gonna let you know that up front.
Okay.
Pretty much everybody on the podcast.
I'm like, I'm overthinking it, and I'm like, I think, Jesus, I can't. You guys have too many episodes.
Don't worry about it. We'll be like,
I'll come back to this question after I look at the people you've interviewed. Like for real, that's the only answer I'll give.
and you're gonna be like, wow, look at all the guests that
I'll
they've
look
had.
for it.
But
you had
last
Sammy?
question. Was that
Have you had Sammy?
Sammy Diaz?
Chaos.
Oh, Chaos. No, not yet. On my list, though. On my list.
It was Sammy Chaos.
Those I like. You said Sammy, and I was like, I don't know, Diaz. Yeah, I've had Sammy Diaz on the show. Like, Chaos. Oh no, yeah, no, that's one. All right. Last but not least, my favorite question to ask every single person who comes on this show: favorite curse word.
Curse word? I'm from Puerto Rico. I have to say either cabrón or puñeta.
Let's go. I love it. That's what I'm talking about. All right. But those are all my questions I do have for you. So the last thing I need for you to do is let our listeners and our viewers know where they can find you.
Oh, everybody makes fun of me for this, but screw it. So I'll just make a side note. I used to be a fun spelling bee champ when I was a kid, so don't go too crazy when I start spelling my shit. First of all, thank you so much for having me today. I had a really fun time. I love talking about, Latin roots. So this was like warming and welcoming to me. You can find me in social media as Rizos y Sarcasmos. Fun fact, that means in English, curls and sarcasm, but I'm going to spell it out for everybody. RIZOSYSARCASMOS. You can look for me like that on Instagram and X. And I have a Facebook fan page, which is just Nahir Robles. So Those are my 3 social medias.
Well, she gave you a handle. She told you where you can find her. So, like every great part of a wrestling match, we got to take this home. Because this is the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And like I said, as your shirt put, it's never about me. It's about who's entering. So who's entering? You see her right there. Nahir Robles herself. And you guys know what to do. Tune in to the next episode and be there. Or you're legitimately follow us on all of our social media platforms right up above. You're listening to us on Spotify. Even follow us on Spotify. You're subscribed to our YouTube channel. You're listening to us on Amazon Music. You're even leaving those 5-star frog splash reviews that you would do on Apple Podcasts. You're even checking us out on iHeartRadio or whatever that dumb jingle is that they do. You're buying all of our merch on ProWrestlingTees.com or ForYourWear.com. You're even going out and telling your dad, your mom, your brother, your sister, your auntie, your uncle, who you probably removed 3 times from your own family tree, your cousins, your great
neighbors.
Yeah, your neighbors, your haters, because we love those people too, and your pets. You're telling them all about us. You're leaving those likes, comments, and shares, or you're really just kind of waiting for this episode and you're waiting for that outro, and then you're choosing another episode to listen to. Kawaii. What's going on? It is Clipper Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And what we need from you guys is just kind of show some support, right? We want you guys to go to our YouTube channel at the 3 Count Podcast, go on to our Twitch channel, 3 Count Pod, or even our Facebook page, 3 Count Podcast, and just give us a like, follow, subscribe, even give us a comment, right? Do all that cool stuff. Share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your enemies, right? Or you can even come talk to us and just chat us up, right? Find us on Twitter at 3Count_pod. Find us on IG and on TikTok at 3 Count Pod. Go ahead and leave us those comments. We want to hear from all of you guys. We're going to keep putting on videos and stuff like that. We want to keep making this content better, so we want your guys' support. Also, if you guys want to, go support us at prowrestlingtees.com/the 3 Count Podcast, or even find us on foryourwear.com. Give us the support. Show us your guys' love, because we want to give it right back to y'all. So, in the meantime, love y'all.